My paranormal experiences started when I was around 3 to 4 years old. So the very first one that I can remember was where I used to live. At the back of the house, it was all countryside, fields, golf course, all that kind of stuff. Not really any light, artificial light coming in. There's a couple of street lights on the next street down, but they was at an angle. So I was laying in bed. I used to share a bedroom with my brother. I was opposite the window looking out the back. At the foot of the bed was the entrance into the bedroom from the hallway. Now, the only thing that my mum and dad used to do was leave the hallway, the landing, used to leave the light on the outside so we could see at the crack at the bottom of the door. So anyway, this one night, I'm laying in bed. Don't know if you remember, on a vinyl or record player, turntable, when light used to bounce off a vinyl record as it's going round, it'd make like a dancing pattern on the wall. It was like a light just reflecting onto the wall from the actual vinyl. So I'm laying in bed. This is about 7, 8 o'clock at night. Don't forget, I'm only like 3, 4 years old. And I'm facing the wall. The curtains are shut. There's no light getting in. And as I look up, there is what looked like 2 of these lights dancing in a pattern on the wall. And there's no way it could be light coming in from the outside because, like I said, it was fields. There's nothing there. There's just, other than 2 street lights in the next street down, the next light was about half a mile away. And there's no way, not in the 1970s anyway, I don't think there's a light bright enough to get in. It didn't scare me at the time, but the nights following on from that, it kind of then started feeling like when I got in bed, I'd pull the covers over me because it felt like there's people stood round the bed or things stood round the bed looking down at me, and I was always too scared to stick my head out from under the covers. That was my first paranormal experience that I can remember. And then when I was saying about the next street down where the lights were, that was where I had my first UFO experience. I was around about 8, 9 years old. I'd just got a bike for Christmas. It's a Saturday afternoon. It'd been raining, so my mum didn't like me going out on the bike when it was raining in case I fell off and hurt myself if I slid in the water. But anyway, so riding around up and down the estate, there's virtually like 10 cars on the estate. There's only like 10 houses per street, so there weren't that many vehicles about at the time. So I'm riding up and down, going through the puddles and that. Anyway, on the next street down on the corner, I pull up on my bike. Don't know why, but I just sat on the saddle, my hands on the handlebars, and just looked straight up directly above me. And there was what looked like a silver disc right above my head. I'd say it was roughly about 150 to 200 foot above. So it's like 2 circular discs, one inside the other. I think the outside one was more of a gunmetal grey, and the inside one was a lot lighter. But between the 2 discs on the outside one, there's like smaller circles going all the way around. I guess I'd say there was 8 of them. And you sat there looking straight up, head tilted right back, just staring at it. I don't remember it making any noise. Didn't see any beings inside it and nothing like that. I didn't see any windows, no doors. And it was just hovering right above my head. I could have been looking at it for 2 minutes. It could have been 2 hours. Because I was there on my own and none of my friends were out at the time, I don't know. And the rule was, for me going back home after playing out, was either I go back when I'm hungry, I go back if the weather turns bad, or as it starts getting dark. But like I said, I guess I'd say it's about 1, 2 o'clock Saturday afternoon. So I'm just sat looking straight up at it. I remember my neck started aching because it was like pretty much 90-degree tilted neck. So put my neck back down to straighten it and like stop it aching. As I look back up, nothing there. Like I said, there's no sound, no humming, no lights on it, nothing, just 2-tone grey. And that was the second thing that had happened to me in that area. Don't really remember much more happening living in that part of the UK. I reckon probably about a year later, we used to go to my uncle and aunties that lived in the next town over. So we'd gone over. Don't know if any of you guys remember the old Betamax movies Betamax videos where you could get the movies on there. My uncle had got one, and he got a couple of movies on there. So we'd gone over. I don't know if we'd gone over for the weekend or we'd just gone for the day. So I remember all the family were in the front room. I think they was watching Poltergeist or something like that. And me and my cousin was upstairs in his bedroom. Now, my cousin used to share a bedroom with his granddad. Now, I need to explain the layout of the house for you to understand how what I'm going to tell you, otherwise it won't make sense. So you go in the front door, and you've got a hallway. There's the first room on the left-hand side. I suppose it's like a spare front room. Then the next room, go to the next, that's where the main living room was. You go through that goes into the kitchen, you go out that, you've got a backyard. Go back into the main living area. Now, they used to have steps going down into the cellar, but as far as I know, it all got blocked off. So anyway, go back into the hallway, the stairs running directly up in front of you. So you're coming through the front door, along the hallway, straight up the stairs, then you're on the landing. Directly in front was a bedroom. To the left of that, about 2 steps, was a bathroom. At the top of the stairs, if you turned immediately left at 1 step, that was my cousin's bedroom. If you then went up that 1 step and turned back on yourself as though you're walking back to the front of the house, that was a master bedroom. So we're in my cousin's room and we're playing with cars and action men and all that kind of stuff. I think he had a little portable black and white TV radio thing or something. So we sat there and we had a knock on the bedroom door. And we left it a couple of seconds. My cousin opened it and was like, there's no one there. He goes, oh, it'll be my granddad or my dad or someone. Go into the bathroom, because you had to pass that door to get to the bathroom. And then obviously you turn around and you come back down the stairs. So you'd have to pass it twice. There's no other way around. So we carried on playing and these knocks got louder. And I reckon I'd say between 7 and 10. That's all I can remember. I'd struggle putting an exact date on it. It kind of kept happening, but it wasn't. So the door handle, it wasn't a door handle, it was the old door knob, what you turn, and then it had like a little thumb slide for locking it. So we carried on, and it kept happening, and I started getting scared at this point. And because, it'll be one of them messing about, don't worry. It's like, I felt like it wasn't right. There was 3 of the biggest bangs you've ever heard in your life on the door. But just before that happened, about 5 seconds before that happened, I remember it like it happened today. The door handle started turning like someone was trying to open it, but because we'd slid the thumb lock across, whoever it was couldn't open it. So he let go of the doorknob, and as he did the 3rd bang, my cousin, he had hold of the door ready, he slid the lock open. On the 3rd bang, we pulled the door, because it opened inwards. As we opened it inwards, I've got goosebumps now, there was nobody there. I swear to God, I jumped off his bed, over that 1st step, from the top step, and flew to the bottom without touching any of them steps, and didn't go to his bedroom again for months, if not years, because we knew it wasn't anyone. And when we got downstairs, everyone who was in the house was in the living room. So there's no way it could have been anybody else there. But then we found out a few years later, the area where these terrace houses were built, it used to be a graveyard, and they pretty much just built over it. I think they just removed the headstones. They didn't move any of the caskets or anything, and they just built houses on top of it all. And that was probably one of the scariest ones. Like I said, that was, nearly around about 40 years ago. So then nothing major happened for quite a few years. I'd say going into my teens then. So I'd say about 16, 17, 18, things started happening, but I didn't really take much notice of it. There was one incident, and this was where I see my very first full body apparition. Got quite a big family, so I was out with one of my other cousins. We're all roughly around the same age, give or take a couple of years. So I was gone out with one of my other cousins who lived in a different part of the area where I'm from, and we got meeting some of his mates. It was winter time, it was snowing a bit, cold, So we used to go and stand under this bridge. It's only like a footbridge. It weren't like for vehicles or anything like that. So you come down off the main road, like the street, you walk down a dirt track, you go over the bridge, you cut down the side of it, and then you go underneath it. There's a little ledge. It's not that wide because your toes are always hang over the edge. It's probably about 8 foot long, but the actual step bit was probably about 5 or 6 inches. So there's 3 of us stood underneath. Anyway, it's snowing. We was waiting for some of his mates to turn up. And I just looked up. You just get that feeling like there's something watching you or something looking at you. And I looked across and I could see the head going into the shoulders, tapering down where the arms are at the side of the body, and then roughly to mid-shin, and then nothing. Whatever it was floating. It was right opposite. I ran from under the bridge, up the side, over the bridge, up the dirt track, onto the street before the other two had even got from under the bridge. I was that scared because we wasn't expecting it. We were just there, like, sheltering from the snow and cold and what have you. Anyway, we wasn't convinced. We thought, it might be graffiti or something. So we went back the next day while it was daylight. Oh, sorry, I didn't explain. It had just gone dusk, so it was at the point where it's getting dark and your eyes are adjusting and all that. So it wasn't totally dark, but it wasn't light enough to make anything out. So anyway, we went back the next day because it wasn't far from where I lived. And if that was a person stood on the other side, they would have had to have been floating because there's a little bit of graffiti on the wall. On the opposite side, there's no ledge. You couldn't stand on it. It was all brambles and bushes and twigs and branches coming off broken trees. There's a little stream that you had to cross, probably about 10 foot across, but only about half a foot deep. And then you had the metal structure holding the bridge up, which went into a big concrete slab thing that they put there to support it. And then that went up at a steep angle, and then there's nothing that just went up to the wall. So if there's anything stood there, they'd have had to be pushing back on the feet, pushing themselves up on the wall. We used to hang about there quite a lot. That was the only time I ever seen it. And even after that, I used to go, like, obviously meet my mates and that there, when the weather was bad, because you get about 10 people underneath the bridge. And I'd sometimes go on my own, never seen it again. Didn't make any noise, didn't feel anything following me, never felt like there's anything watching me again, only that one time. So that was that one. From there, I'm going to jump forward probably about another 10 years, I think. There's probably more experiences in that, but I just can't remember at this point. So the next one, I was probably around about 25, 26. I'll never forget this one. This was another UFO one. And I remember it was a Friday, because I used to finish work early on a Friday. I used to take a van home. Now, my manager, he wanted to borrow the van because he was moving out, so he was moving some furniture. So I said, yeah, you use the van, I'll take your car for the weekend. He went, yep, no problems. Just go and fill it up before you go, so don't have to do it next week. Went, yeah, that's cool. So went fueled up, driving home. So I used to drive home, used to go down, not a motorway, like a dual carriageway. So going down, clear day, probably about 2:00 in the afternoon. We used to finish around about 1:30, so it used to take me about 20 minutes to get home. But by the time I fueled up and that, so let's say it was 1:30. I'm driving out, blue sky, no clouds, nothing, quite cold. And I'm driving down and the road starts bearing around to the left. As I'm coming round, there's a couple of cars behind me and not really anything in front of me. It's like more like a spur where you get two roads linking together. So as I'm coming around this bit, I just see a silver object in the sky. I'd say it was a couple of miles away. It wasn't close. I couldn't see any detail on it. I couldn't tell if it was a disc, a ball, a triangle, anything like that. I could just see it was like a silver object in the sky. It just ripped across the sky from left to right, a big blue strip across the sky like electric blue. Then at the end of it, it just lit up bright like fire engine red. It vanished. I think it went through a portal, but as the object vanished, the red and the blue lit up dead bright and then just went to nothing, like nothing was ever there. And I was that shocked, that mesmerised by it. I had to pull over. What we have in the UK, a hard shoulder. It's like if you break down, so you're not parked on the main carriageway. I had to pull over into that because I thought I was going to be physically sick. I didn't know what I'd seen. It just happened right in front of me. And it was one of them. I'm just driving back home, early finish on a Friday, to then I'm probably going out Friday night somewhere. And then that happens. And it wasn't until I was talking about it with someone on one of the live streams a few weeks ago, and they said, that sounds like you witnessed a portal being opened, a spaceship going through it and closing behind it. It ripped a hole in our timeline or our dimension to go through to the next one. Whether it was or not, I don't know. I'm just repeating what I was told that it could be, and it does make a lot of sense. So then, after that, this isn't a few years later again, this isn't far from where I witnessed this UFO. So I was at a party. It was my brother's girlfriend's parents' house. So they're now married. So it's my like sister-in-law's mum and dad's house. And I think I drove there and I'd had a few beers. So they said, why don't you stay over? Instead of messing about, go and get your car tomorrow. Why don't you stay here and we'll start out doing the car and everything tomorrow once you feel better. Or once you feel like you can drive or what have you. So I said, yeah, that's fine. Save me messing about with taxis or walking and what have you. So me and my brother, we slept on the sofas. There are 2 leather sofas in the living area. So I slept on one on the outside wall, and he slept at one over near the fireplace and that. Now I need to explain this house as well, because it won't make any sense otherwise. So the house is on the corner. It's on a main road, like the main roads in the UK, the A road. So this was on the A6. And then there's 4 bridges just after, and that links to the motorway and the dual carriageways and all that. And it was on one of them where I seen the UFO. So anyway, they're only about 50 yards away from the house. As you turn down the side of the house, you turn onto it's like a gravel track, a dirt track, and that leads down to a place called St Mary's Cemetery, which is a Catholic cemetery. But down there, you've got a hall where there's a lot of monks that live, and there's a moat going around it, and there's CCTV, there's electric fencing, there's everything. There's no way of you ever getting in there. And there's a few odd things that have gone on in there. There's one of a screaming skull. It's one of those where if you take the skull off the shelf, it starts screaming and laughing and all this, but that's a different story. So we're at this house party. It's probably around about 1:30. Everyone's gone home. Family living there, they've all gone to bed. So it's just me and my brother having a chat, probably finishing our drinks off. And then he goes, I'll get you a cover and that. Get our heads down. Like, yeah, cool. So I'm on the sofa. Like I said, I've got the outside wall behind me with a little window. And my brother's up, I said, between the fireplace and the TV. So I wake up at about 3:00 in the morning. And I'm like, oh my God, what's that? And my brother goes, what? And I explained, he went, oh, don't worry, it happens all the time. I must have sobered up in a flash. It was that freaky. So I'm lay there. I could hear children, I'd say around about the ages of 4, 5, 6 at the most, boys and girls running around outside, laughing and playing. So like I said, the road at the side was a gravel track, like a dirt track that led down to the cemetery. There's only about 5 or 6 houses down this private road, and then it stops, and then you're on the grounds that belong to the church. So there's no more houses after that, other than this monk's hall. And the people that live in these houses are a lot older. No one's got young kids or anything like that. Plus, it's not the place where kids would be playing out at 2:00 in the morning. They wouldn't even be playing out at 2:00 in the afternoon. Like I said, you've got a busy main road at the front. You've got motorway bridges just after that. And then you got this dirt track. There's up that one street light, and that's it. Yeah, it's not the place where kids would be playing. And it was lads and girls and running around and playing outside. And I woke up and I was just sat there froze because when I woke up, I could still hear him, could still hear him running about. It was like there's kicking a ball about or playing tag or something like that. It's just so freaky. Anyway, so the story of the house. So the house, you go in the front door, you got a big open hallway reception. Go round to the left, you go through into the kitchen, you follow it round, you got a summer room, you follow that round again, you come into the living room, out the living room, you got the stairs going up, you carry on round, and you're back to the front of the house again. So it's a complete circle. Obviously, you can go around the other way. It's got a big back garden, obviously no side garden because you got the track. Now, as you go on the reception, there's a wall directly in front of you. To the left of that wall, there's a doorway. That doorway used to be the same again like the other house where my cousin was. Steps leading down to the cellar. Now, when they moved in, I don't know if they got it done or the previous owners, they got it all cemented up. So there's no access into it. It was just completely blocked in. There's like just poured cement in it. That house was used as a stop-off point when they was taking the bodies down to the cemetery to be buried. So I don't think, and the noise that I was hearing has something to do with that. I've no proof, but I know what I heard, and my brother heard it, and he's heard it a few times as well. And like I said, after I woke up, it carried on for a couple of minutes before it just stopped. It wasn't like it faded out like the kids were moving away. It was like, as quick as it started, it just stopped dead. So that was that one. I used to live in the north of England, in Manchester. And then 14 years ago, I moved south, just outside London. So the first house I moved to was on a nice little estate, like grass and fields, and wasn't that busy, a shop, a school, all the stuff that you normally have. No main road, there's a bus route going round, and that was about it. Now, there's one, my son came and stayed over, and so you go front room, or living room at the front, you go through to the kitchen at the back. Now, the stairs going up are in the kitchen, so you go to where the back door was, up the stairs, then you got 3 doors. Door on the left, 1 bedroom, door on the right, the other bedroom, door in the middle was to the bathroom. Now, as you go in the bathroom, there's another door to the right. You go through that, it takes you into my old bedroom. So it's like, kind of like made it ensuite. So anyway, my son had gone up and he come flying downstairs and he's like, what's up? He went, you never believe what I've just seen. I'm like, right, stop. I need you to stop now. I went, don't tell me because I live here and I need to carry on living here. I'll just need you, as and when I ask you, that's when you need to tell me. But don't worry, you're safe, you're with us, but I don't need to know what you've seen at the moment. Goes, right, okay. So calmed him down, it was okay. Anyway, we all went to bed and nothing else happened. He didn't say anything again, no one else seeing anything. And then it wasn't until there's one day I was going for a job interview. So put shirt and tie on, blah, 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 going out the front door. And I always check to make sure that the windows are locked or shut and put on the latch. Anyway, so I'm walking down the path. For some reason, I just looked up. And as I looked up at the window, I could not believe it. Stood right in the middle of the room. And now you couldn't do this because it wasn't a big bedroom. It had one side of the wall was a built-in wardrobe. So say at the end on the right. Then to the left of that was a door into the bathroom. There's a little wall, probably not even a foot long. Then it set back a bit. Then there's a door that led out onto the landing. And then in the middle was a bed. So you didn't have room for anything else. It wasn't the biggest room. As I looked up, where the bed is, there was someone stood there. Now, if they'd been stood on the bed, the head had been touching the ceiling. It was a low roof as well. Or low ceiling, I should say. Or the head would be, sounds stupid, but the head would be where the light shade was. As I looked up, I seen an old man's face, all sunken, bald on top. Dark grey, going at the side, like leathery tan coloured skin. But he wasn't looking directly out the window. He was like looking from the wardrobe toward the headboard. So he's looking over his left shoulder out the bedroom window. I got goosebumps again. And he's looking down, I'm like, I just couldn't believe what I'd seen. So I turned away. It's like, no, that can't have been there. I looked back and it had gone. Wasn't the lampshade, because I could see the lampshade. It's a black and white plastic lampshade. It was too big. If that had been his head, it wasn't. That wasn't what I'd seen. It wasn't clouds reflecting. I stood there for about 5 minutes trying to work out what it could have been. I thought, you know what? I'm just going to phone my son. So I rang him and I said, remember you come over, we was having that party and you went to the bathroom and you come out the wrong door, you went into our bedroom, you flew downstairs. He's like, yeah. He went, please tell me what you've seen. And he described this old man, and he was stood in the exact same spot where I'd seen him when I was stood outside looking out. I didn't tell him the description that I've just told you guys now. I said, right, you tell me what you seen, what it looked like, how it was stood, everything about it. And he did it to a T. He's like, why, what's wrong? I went, I've just seen the exact same thing. And he just started laughing at me. And you've got to live there. I went, yeah, cheers for that. So, yeah, didn't live there that much longer after that. Yeah, so that was that one. Oh, but I have missed one. So before I moved down south from the north, I lived in another part of Manchester. I was there for probably about 2 years. And so I moved into this house, housing estate again, quiet, like I say, with a bus route, shops, got everything you need on there. There was 3 entrance points to the house. So you had the front door, in a little front garden. So you go in the front door, stairs directly in front. You had to the left the hallway, which led to the other side of the house where the living room was. And in the living room, directly opposite the front door, was a door leading into the back garden. But if you go in through the front door, onto the hallway, and then turn left into the kitchen, directly opposite the entrance into the kitchen from the hallway was another door leading into the side garden. It's all connected. There's just 2 exits or entrances leading into the back. One went into the side, one went to the back. Obviously, you walk around and it's like an L-shaped. So anyway, they had deadbolts on them and they had Yale twist locks. So it had a bolt at the top and bottom on both back and side doors and a deadlock Yale. So what we used to do, because sometimes you used to park the car at the side of the house, because at the front of the house, so you had the garden, they had a path, then you had a bit of green, and then you'd park up. So there's a bit of a walk to the house, especially when you got a load of shopping. So sometimes we'd park at the side, there's a bit of wasteland, and then we could just lift the shopping over the fence, and then just walk over and then straight into the kitchen. So first thing started was, we've gone shopping, no one in the house, but it wasn't the greatest area to live. So I think that was why there's the amount of bolts on every door. So I locked the living room door into the garden, did the 2 bolts, did the deadlock. Kitchen, 2 bolts, deadlock. Front door, I fitted a mortise lock, so I did mortise lock in Yale lock, so there's 2 locks on that as well. So in total, there's 3, 6, 8 locks. Gone shopping, come back, went in through the front door, obviously went into the kitchen to put the groceries and that away, and noticed that the 2 bolts on the kitchen door leading outside had been slid open. So I just went over to open the door thinking I must have forgot to bolt them across. The middle bit had been unlocked, so the door just opened. So I said to the partner at the time, before we left, did you open it? Like, no, why would I? You was the last one out, you locked up. And that's what I thought. I just wanted to double check that I hadn't thought I'd done that and that you'd done it. Joe, and you're not 100% sure because of what's gone on. So, no. I was like, weird. Anyway, nothing missing from the house, nothing going on, everything was normal. And then a couple of days later, we sat in the living room, sorry. Like I said, we had the doors open, so if we were sat in the living room, we could look down the hallway. If anyone could come to the door, we could see who it was. Just made it easier. So we sat there, and then you'd hear the taps would turn on in the kitchen. Sorry, the faucets would turn on in the kitchen, and just water would be running. So you go in, you turn them off, you sit back down, they come on again. Now, we had someone come out to check them, to make sure there was nothing faulty with them, and they was working fine. It was pretty much brand new. Most of the stuff, like especially in the kitchen and bathroom, were all new fittings. Same with the power sockets and that. Before you move in, they've got to check that everything's working fine, that there's no loose connections or anything like that. So they checked, and they checked the seals on them, everything, not a problem. And it kept doing it over and over. It never did it when you stood in the kitchen, but as soon as you walked out of there and started walking away, they'd come on. And it's like, no, this it's too freaky, this now. It's too much. Then anyway, there's one night, it's a Saturday night, watching TV. I think my son was with us, my eldest son, and he was sat on the computer. So I think it was on YouTube, whatever he was doing. And I was just thinking, this was roughly, I'd say about 2006, 2007. So he sat on the computer, watching all these videos and what have you. And then I thought someone had put a petrol bomb through the front door. Just a massive plume of flames just come out of nowhere. I'm looking, and it's like, when you see something and you're trying to work out where it was, but nothing makes sense. I knew it was fire. There's me, my partner, and my son. We all seen it. We all jumped up. We panicked. And we went running down to see where it was. And as we got there, it stopped. There was a disposable lighter left on maybe the 4th or 5th stair going upstairs. Now, it was at night. It was winter time. So it was about probably about 9, 10 o'clock at night. So it was dark. There's no heat coming in. There's no direct light pointing at this lighter. And this lighter, we thought this lighter had exploded. So it just went up in a big, flame, then died down. We picked the lighter up. There was no damage to the lighter. There's still fuel in it. It hadn't melted. No metal had come off it. We clicked it. It was working. It was working fine. But this flame came direct from this disposable lighter. I just got it and threw it straight. I think I smashed it up and then threw it in the bin because I didn't want anything like that in the house. It wasn't the fact that it was a lighter. I think it was more because I didn't know what was going on, whether the object was haunted or something had touched it and made it happen. I don't know. That was probably the worst thing. Nothing like that happened again. It was just the locks being unlocked from the inside while we was out and all the other doors were shut and locked up, and the taps continued to turn themselves on. Never turned off. They always turned on. And even if you tie them, I did it as tight as I could, even put a towel on to make it over tight. So it was proper ripping into the seal. They'd still turn on. But we never heard anything, never seen anything. It's like I said, just that one big flame and then the faucets. That was that then. So obviously I moved down south. That happened at the house with the old guy looking out the window. Then I moved to another place in Buckinghamshire. So I moved there. I was living with my partner at the time and she had a couple of kids. So it was quite a busy house. It's a big house and there's back garden and that. So this is another one. I need to explain the house because so much went on at this house. It was unbelievable. I could write a book just on what happened in this house. So there's no parking. There wasn't a road at the front. They're called a croft. So you've got 4 rows of houses, all at 90 degrees to each other. So it's like a big square. And you have a path going around. Then you have a mini field in the middle, like kids to play on. And it used to be like a slide and a swing and all that kind of stuff on it. So yeah, it's pretty much for kids to play out. It was communal parking. So you had to park at the back and then walk down. But the back of the house was a road. So sometimes I used to park there. Not really anything to do with it. So you go in the front door. To the right hand side is like a little pantry room, like a cloak room. As you go in the front door, slightly to the right was the kitchen. Now there's no access out of the kitchen into the back garden. So as you come out of the kitchen, back to the front door, look straight in front of you, stairs going straight up. To your left, you go in and there's a living room, which was the full length of the house. Now that had the access door going into the back garden. If you go upstairs, top of the stairs, turn right, first door on your right was a bedroom. You go to the end, was a bathroom only. Directly opposite the stairs, a little bit to the right, was a toilet and a hand sink, hand basin. That was it. To the left, first left was like the master bedroom, but then to the left was a box room. So it was a 3-bedroom with separate bath and toilet. It started slowly and then it built up over time. I think I lived there for about 5-6 years. So the first thing that happened was lying in bed one night. The window used to be on my right hand side, so the entrance to the bedroom is on my left in the bottom left hand corner. Lay in bed one night, The doorway into the box room, because of how small it was and the way the bed was built, you couldn't actually shut the bedroom door. We had a clothes rack on there, so we could hang clothes on it, whether for work the next day or the kids' clothes or whatever. I was laying in bed this one day, and we just watched on a coat hanger. This black cardigan just came up, swung, from bottom going up and to the right, stopped there for about 2 seconds before it moved back in the same fluid motion. It wasn't like it was blowing in the wind, it'd be flapping about. This was sort of like someone had swung it up, held it, and then put it back. From that night, that's where it started, and it just went ridiculous from that point. I'd be sat there watching TV, and I'd see shadow people, always in my peripheral vision, and they'd just start walking as though they're going to walk in front of the TV, and as soon as they got in direct eye line, gone. And it'd happen all the time. I'd hear and see full body apparitions of kids. So like I said, the living room, where the sofa was set, you could see the bottom of the stairs, the entrance going round into the kitchen and the front door. So if there's anyone coming in and out, you have direct line of vision. I seen someone run downstairs. He had blue denim jeans on and a white t-shirt. I seen him run down and run round into the kitchen. I heard him. I heard the footstep, everything. It was like it was a person. I thought, it's one of the kids. They've gone into the kitchen so that when the mum goes in, they're going to jump out and scare us. Now, the way the kitchen was, we had a big fridge freezer, chest freezer, and they was you had the gap under the stairs, so a lot of stuff was pushed under there. But there's a little bit where you could hide. So I thought, right, they've gone and hid behind that. So I've gone round, creeping in, thinking, right, I'm going to scare them before they can scare me. I've gone in there, there's nobody about. You can't even climb out the kitchen window to get out. If you go in the kitchen, you have to come back the same way you went in, and you would have been seen. Plus, none of the kids ever wore denim jeans. They either wore jogging bottoms or shorts. Yeah, it's very rare to see any of them in jeans, especially the blue denim. So I went in, there's no one there. I thought, right, I'm going for a walk. I just went for a walk for 10 minutes before I come back because I didn't know what was going on. Another time, I was stood between my bedroom and the box bedroom where I seen the black cardigan come up and hold. I stood there chatting to one of the kids, talking to him about his computer or something, his Xbox, whatever. It wasn't working proper, I can't remember. And as I'm stood there, I seen a black figure walk from the bedroom, my bedroom, into where the toilet was, and it was that close. If I'd have tucked my elbow into my waist and pointed my hand out, I'd have put my hand through it. I pinned myself back up against the wall. This thing was about no taller than 5 foot. It was dark. It was like a transparent shadow, and it just glided. You could see it was walking. You could see the movement of footsteps as it went past. It didn't glide as such, but there was no feet. You could see the shape of the head and the arms and the body, didn't see a face. And I'm shouting to other people in the house to come and have a look, and it didn't respond to anything I was doing. And I was literally screaming down its ear hole and nothing. And as it got to the doorway where the toilet was, same thing again, just vanished, nothing. There was another UFO experience that went over 2 days, not constant days. It's it happened on the first day, then it happened on the second day. So at this point, this was middle of summer, I was off work. I think I had booked a few days off work. So I'd gone into the back garden. We had rabbits. So I'd gone out checking them, see if they needed any food or water. So I'm stood in the garden. I think I had a bacon sandwich or something, and it's quite nice. So check the rabbits. I'm stood there. It's nice, fresh summer morning. And when you just get the feeling there's something watching you, but you can't work out where it was. It was one of them. So the back garden was about 20 foot long. Then, like I said, there's a road behind it. Then it went up on a bit of a hill, some trees, and it dropped down to a main carriageway at the bottom. So you could hear the traffic all the time. But anyway, so I'm stood in the garden. So I've got the house behind me, and I look over to my left, say 11 o'clock, and I could see a silver object in the sky. Same again as when I seen that one go through that portal or whatever it was. It was just there. It wasn't moving about. Didn't see any lights on it. It wasn't zigzagging across the sky. Pure blue sky, no clouds. I was just stood there staring at it. And it just wasn't moving. I was kind of like, I think I was getting transfixed. Because the more, each time I tell this story, I kind of get another feeling comes back to me of what was happening at the time. So as I'm looking at it, it's just there. I'm like, this doesn't feel right. It's not moving. I think it could be a satellite. Then I'm thinking, well, satellites don't just sit there. It wasn't a hot air balloon. It wasn't a plane. It wasn't a helicopter. It wasn't. You could clearly see that. To me, it looked like a ball bearing and just been put in the sky and just left there. So watched it for a few more minutes. Did what I needed to do. Just before I went back in, looked back at the same point, still there. All right, okay. So went back in the house. Did what I did that day. Anyway, next morning, same thing. Go out, check the rabbits, check the food and water, see if they need cleaning out, all that kind of stuff. And I thought, And I looked back at the same point where I did yesterday, and it was there again. But this time is a completely different feeling. This felt like I was being observed. I felt like as I was looking at that, they knew I was looking at it, and that's whatever they are or were, that's what they wanted. They wanted to get my attention. It's so hard to explain. I know it, but when I go to put it in words, it's so difficult. So I'm staring at this, and I know they know I'm looking at it, and I started getting a bit, no, this isn't right. I just went straight back inside. I don't think I went out then for a few days. I just couldn't go out because I think if I'd seen it again, I'd have started losing it. So this leads on to two main things that happened at this house. Not so long after that, it was evening time. I sat upstairs in the bedroom. Part of the time was having a shower. Her eldest daughter had come in to get I think she'd come in to get her clothes for school, or come in to get something anyway. So I'm sat there. Anyway, the bedroom window, it was one that tilts horizontally, not vertically. So you open it from the bottom and it tilts and it has the safety lock on it. So I'm sat on the edge of the bed, probably about 2 foot away from the window. And I just hear this guttural, like breathing, growling noise coming from underneath the window. We're on the first floor, so it's a good 10, 12 foot between the bottom of the window to the footpath below. And it was growling. And I said to her daughter, I went, can you hear that? Please tell me you can hear that. And it's like, and she started laughing, like panicky laugh. She's like, yeah, I can hear it. And it lasted at least a minute. And it was just, I can't recreate the growling noise, even though I've tried so many times. But it was that freaky that I think if I'd have gone to look out the window or put my hand out the window, whatever it was would have grabbed me. I didn't see anything, didn't smell anything. Like I said, the window was only open a couple of inches, but there was no smell. It could have been sat at the window and I couldn't see it. I could see the houses opposite because you could see the lights that were on there. Couple of street lights where I said the communal parking was. I don't know what that was, but there was growling and it was like that noise, but with it as well. If it was a dog, it was a big dog. And I'm talking bigger than an Alsatian. Whatever it was big. It's like the growling was vibrating in its chest, whatever it was. I don't even know if it was a dog. It could have been a person. I didn't see anything, so I can't give you anything on that. But then from that, I started having weird dreams. And these dreams were always about UFOs. I'd be walking down the street, so I was living in the south, but these dreams were always in the same part of Manchester near where I grew up. I'd be walking down and it'd be all these spaceships having a intergalactic fight, and there'd be hundreds of them shooting across the sky in lights and different shaped ships and different colour lights and all that. And there'd be this same guy would always pop up. He's an old guy, probably about 60, 70, bald, grey, bit of a stubble on that. And he'd look at me and I'd look at him. We both stopped what we're doing. He's like, what are you doing? I'd be like, what do you mean what am I doing? He goes, what are you doing? You're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be able to see any of this. And then I'd start And I'd go, and I'd run off. I don't even know what I was running from. But every time I had these dreams, there was in different places, like different parts of wherever, some places I don't even recognise, but the same person would pop up and he'd say, what you doing here? You're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be able to see this. And then I'd get scared for whatever reason and run off. And this is, like I said, a reoccurring dream. But dreams were the same, but it was always in a different location. And that had happened all the time. And I remember one night, you know, when you wake up in the middle of the night, you're half asleep and you're feeling for, like, say, your phone or you're looking for something on the side. It was kind of like that. I woke up and I felt something in my right nostril, about right at the top where the bridge is. And I remember I literally had my hand inside my nose. I was trying to get this thing. I could feel something moving. And I kind of woke up halfway through and I had blood on my hand. You know, when you can smell your own blood. And my fingers and thumb and hand was covered in blood. I had a white unit at the side of me. Even I could see the blood on the pillow. So I'm literally got my hand inside my nose and I pull out this little tube. I swear to God, it was probably about a centimetre and a half long and probably about 2-3 millimetres thick. And it had like a little, it was like a straw. So it had the gap, it was hollow. So it's about, like I said, about a centimetre and a half long. It's white and it was hollow. So I reckon the hollow gap inside it was probably about 1 millimetre, and then it'd be another 2 millimetres, so it'd be, like I said, 3 millimetres thick. And there's enough light so I could see it. By the time I'd woke up and my eyes had adjusted, I could see it, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, what the hell is it? But then I started getting really sleepy again. So I just put it down. Like I said, I had a white unit, and I just put it down on the white unit, which was well within arm's reach of the bed. Thought I'll have a look at it in the morning. I placed it somewhere where I know it wouldn't roll away. Woke up in the morning, nothing. There's no tube, there's no blood on my hand, there's no blood on the pillow, nothing anyway, no blood on the unit, there's no trace of blood. I do not remember getting out of bed. Even if I had to wash myself, there'd have been blood on the bed. The tube had gone and everything. And the only thing that I've got as proof of that was I had an indentation in my right nostril for about 2-3 months after that. You can't see it now, but because I know where it was, I can actually feel where it used to be. So I don't know if that was an implant. I don't know if that's something to do with the dreams, with the metallic ball that I could see, whether that was connected to it, where I felt like I was being watched, whether it was the one that ripped through the portal 20 years previous to that. I've no idea. But I do believe that the UFO incidents from like the first one that I had run like 9 up till that one are all connected. There is one more UFO one which I don't think has got anything to do with any of the others. So this one, I'm driving back towards work. I'm on the motorway and I'm coming off at the next junction. And as I'm driving up, it was just getting dark and it was about 7 o'clock at night. So I reckon it was just spring coming into summertime. And there's a lot of roadworks on the motorway. So it was like down to 35, 40 miles an hour. And as I'm driving along, there's loads of fields on the right hand side. Just fields and fields and fields. And there's a river and the Great River Ouse, it's called. There's a lot of activity on there. As I'm driving along, I just noticed the only thing I can describe it as was a plasma ball in the sky. It was in the shape of a flying saucer, that disc shape, and it's like little droplets, just one after the other, dripping down from the bottom. They just look like teardrops, and they just drop down. There'd be one, and they wouldn't drop quick. So it's like with eye drops or ear drops, it was like that. So every time you drop one and release it, but it'd move down slow. And then the next one, and it was like there was the same pattern, the same speed, the same rhythm. It was constant. It was, like I said, the pattern, the speed, the shape, the size, everything about it was just like watching it going over and over again. And you're just watching them dropping down. They stopped so far. So say they dropped 200 foot, I don't know how high this thing was, and then It was quite high off the ground where they stopped. And the next one had dropped, but then the one before that had gone. And it just looked like a giant plasma ball. And I'm thinking to myself, there must be other people driving past now that can see this going on. And I'm looking at other people in the car and they're just carrying on. Like whether they didn't see it or they weren't bothered by it or it just didn't exist to them. I have no idea. But as I'm coming up the junction to get onto the road off the motorway, there's all the trees and that there, so it blocked my view and there's no way I could have got round to see it from that point. So I lost all vision of that. But I'd say I'd watched it for at least a minute, 2 minutes. As I'm driving up, it was just there, just drop after drop of these, just look like plasma balls. There's no lights, no colour lights coming from them. They weren't moving. I'd even put the window down to see if I could hear anything, but obviously I'm on the motorway, so I can only hear traffic. But the light it was giving off was like it had its own energy. It wasn't light reflecting off it or anything like that. It's like you've got a light bulb inside a lampshade, so the light's coming from the inside, and that's what it looked like an LED, like a bluey white colour. That's the only way I can describe it. So that was that one. And then I'm going to jump back to the house where I had all this other stuff going on. Same again, I'm in the back garden where I witnessed the metal object that I felt like was observing me, but this was at night. I used to go out in the back garden with a telescope looking at the planets and stars and everything. The way the garden at night, where the shed and the fence and everything, if you stood at the correct angle, you'd block out all the street lighting. And the only light that you get would be from my house or the neighbours to the left, because you couldn't see any of the others because of the angle of everything. So I'm looking at the stars and trying to work out what constellations what, so on and so on. And I'm just about to go back in. I'm probably stood about 8 foot away from the back door. So I've got the house in front of me and obviously the fence and that behind me. And I just caught something in the corner of my eye. This is about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. So it's a clear night, obviously, because it was stargazing. If it'd been cloudy, it'd have been pointless. And I just seen something dark in the corner of my eye. I focused on it, locked eyes onto it, and watched it till it had gone out of distance. Kid you not, it was a pterodactyl. At the time, I didn't know what it was. So as soon as I seen it coming from my peripheral vision, I then locked my eyes onto it and I watched it until it flew out of sight. It was level with the back of the house. So the back of the house was higher than the front. So it wasn't your typical roof that went up to a point in the middle, then back down. It was just like a lean-to. So it went from the back and then down to the front. So the front of the house was probably about 8 foot lower than what the back was. And I just watched it. It didn't flap its wings. It didn't move its head. It didn't make any noise. It flew in a straight line like someone was pulling it on a rope. So as I'm watching it go across the sky, I'm scaling it to the size of the house and the distance it was away. On my reckoning, I'd say the wingspan was at least 16 foot across. And from the tip of its head, beak, mouth, whatever you want to call it, to the tip of its tail, I'd say that was at least 24 foot. So the wingspan was at least definitely 16 foot and then 24 foot in length. It was like a dark tan brown. It was the head at first because I could only see the underbelly. So I didn't get a proper look on the head, but I could see the mouth and the side of the face because of the angle. But then the underbelly, and then it was the shape of the wings because I was trying to work the wings out because you could tell it wasn't a bird. You could tell it was leathery. So the way a bat's wings, so it comes right out to a point, then you have the bit that's at the bottom of the wing where it's thinner, where its hand is, or its foot, call it its hand, isn't it? Which is in the middle, and then you have another bit, and then you've got the point. It was that. Then you had the long body. I could see the feet underneath. The main bit that sealed it for me was its tail. So you had the tail, and then you had the diamond bit at the bottom, at the end. Like a lion has, where it has a fluff ball at the end, but you could see it was a diamond shape. And because it was dark brown on a black sky, made it stand out that little bit more. I couldn't get my head around it because it didn't flap. It wasn't swerving, wasn't weaving, wasn't doing anything like that. It just went a straight line. Watched it probably for about, I don't know, a minute and a half. Might have only been 30 seconds. I watched it till it was out of sight. I ran in the house, went straight on the computer. I honestly thought I'd seen a dragon. Like I said, it was 11 o'clock at night. I was on the internet looking till about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, couldn't find it. Next few days, every minute I got to search, I was looking, just couldn't find anything. And then it wasn't till about, say, roughly about 12 to 18 months ago, someone on Facebook group that I've got, someone put a picture up, and I was like, oh my God, that is what I've seen. So I downloaded the picture, and I'm looking at it. I was like a kid at Christmas. I was so excited because even though it was only like a CGI picture or even a painting or drawing or whatever, I think it was CGI, I'm just sat there staring at it. That is what I saw. To the detail, whoever made this image, the head, the shape of the head, the hands, the wings, the feet, everything was exactly that. I was like, oh my God, I've actually seen a pterodactyl in England at night, and that is my most amazing encounter that I've ever had, because it was just, I wasn't expecting to see it. I was looking at the stars. I thought I might see a UFO or a couple of ships or something moving across the sky. Wasn't expecting to see something that's not supposed to exist anymore. And especially in part of the world that I live in, it's not what you'd expect to see at 11 o'clock in England at night. And every time I tell this story of what I've seen, I relive it every single time. Now, as I'm telling it, I'm watching it fly over again. And it's just amazing. It's mesmerizing. And to know and to tell people that I've seen one, I know I don't have to prove it to anyone. I know what I've seen. I know what was there. And I get so excited when I tell it because of what it was that I seen. It's just absolute wow factor. Yeah, so that was pretty much it. I'd say 99% of the encounters I had, and that was all at one house.
If you've had a paranormal experience and would like to be a guest on the show, please contact us by going to myparax.com. That's myparaex.com. Thanks for listening.